Hello and welcome to McAtee Law's First Fridays Live. I am Dan Rock and I will be your host for this afternoon's edition. We generally provide these once a month to just kind of go over the um, news of the month, the highlights in the immigration world. We are taking the month of July off, but we will be back the first Friday of August for a special 2-month version of First Fridays Live, where we touch base on immigration issues affecting the nation over the course of 2 months rather than just one. So, to get started, first, I am a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer. This is for informational purposes only. And if you need more in-depth analysis, please reach out to schedule a consultation. That being said, we are accepting questions for this. So if you have questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and time permitting, I will get to them at the end of the first Friday. The big news in the immigration world is President Biden's executive order on the southern border. The primary thing that it does is it tightens the restrictions on asylum applications for people that enter outside of designated ports of entry. It's prohibits asylum for many asylum applicants that cross regularly. So this is kind of a stringent policy. There's a stricter process for what when people are permitted to enter the U.S. There is essentially a shout test where people must display a fare to avoid expedited removal process. There, it does allow for people with CBP1 appointments to enter for those, but the CBP1 app, there are issues with accessibility and extremely long wait times to get appointments on that, which for asylum seekers, the people with kind of the most pressing need, it having extended wait times doesn't really work with the humanitarian need. Notably, there is no act of Congress, so there's no increase in funding for this. The program is there's no increase of capacity for interviews, expedited removal proceedings, asylum proceedings. So there may be difficulty implementing this policy, this order as it is written. So the executive order is probably the biggest news of the month, but there are other considerations. The H-1B cap, as it was held in at the end of March, the lottery for the H-1B cap, and with filing allowed from beginning in April, that extends till June 30th for people selected in the cap lottery. So if you were selected in the lottery, be sure to get your applications or petitions into USCIS before June 30th of this year. Also, the Department of State kind of jumping gears a little bit to the visa bulletin, the Department of State announced that given the number of green card applicants in the EB2 and EB3 visa categories, preference categories, there will likely be retrogression starting in July of this year in those numbers. It is fairly common for there to be some play in the visa priority date numbers as we reach the end of the fiscal year ending in September. So, that it's not completely surprising that there's going to be some retrogression, but it is unfortunate. So if you have a current priority date in June, we would encourage anyone with a current priority date to try to get your green card application on file before July, as we do expect retrogression. In other news, the AILA conference, that's the Conference of Immigration Lawyers, is taking place in Chicago next week. We are fortunate that Fiona McAtee is speaking at the conference. It does give the immigration lawyer community a chance to interact with government officials that administer these policies that we argue for and advocate on behalf of foreign nationals. So we find it very fortunate that we're able to do that. In the prior administration, there was much less interaction between the government officials and the immigration lawyers. So this is an excellent opportunity for us to advocate for our clients, gain insight onto how USCIS and other government agencies are processing cases, what trends are coming about. So that is occurring next week in Chicago. And then my last couple of tidbits, there was power outages in Texas that affected the Texas Service Center. So cases filed with USCIS through the Texas Service Center were delayed in deliveries. At the end of May into the beginning of June, Texas Service Center has indicated that they're aware of these issues and will work with applicants and petitioners on making sure that these outages do not affect immigration benefits. So please keep that in mind. And then finally, the Biden administration, the DOJ has sued a couple of states, Iowa and Oklahoma, about implementing criminal laws about foreign nationals entering the U.S. without inspection. So that is something that we are keeping an eye on as well. So that is the brief update of news of the past month. Within McAtee Law Group, I'd like to point out that my colleague is giving a presentation on July 26th for employment options for DACA recipients. So we encourage anyone that is a DACA recipient and looking at their options to join that panel. So moving on to questions that we have. The first question, how much retrogression is expected? Weeks or months? In general, the Department of State hasn't really indicated. I would expect, in the past, I have seen fairly significant retrogression as we approach the end of the fiscal year. And then as the new year starts in October, the clock kind of gets moved back to the status quo before the retrogression started. So I think we would you would be wise to expect months to years of retrogression, and then if it is less than that, that's good. But just from July until the end of September, I would expect kind of significant retrogression in the EB2 and EB3 categories for the rest of the world. So next question is, if my green card's missing middle name, what should I do? To correct green cards, you would file an I-90, depending on if it's a USCIS error or your error for an error in the green card. You may or may not have to pay for the I-90, but the I-90 is the way that you would correct a green card. All right. Next question is, can I switch employers on an H-2B visa? Portability is permitted on the H-2B visa. The new employer needs to file temporary labor certification and file a petition, and then the foreign national is free to work with the new employer while that is pending. Those are temporary regulations, so that can change from year to year, but that is in effect this year. All right. Okay, and then can I explain the diversity visa part of the visa bulletin? So similar to the priority dates with the employment and family base, the more people are selected in the diversity visa lottery than are permitted to obtain permanent residence in any given year. That's to account for applications being denied and people not applying. So the rank number is kind of your place in line, and based on your region and rank number, that is the order in which they process cases. So, for example, in the most recent lottery, TV numbers. So for Asia, for example, they have a rank number of 13,000. So if your rank number is below 13,000, then they can process your application. But otherwise, if it's above 13,000, then your green card isn't able to be processed. Follow-up question on the retrogression. Is it possible that dates may become unavailable, stopping all adjudications? That is possible. I wouldn't expect that in July. I think that's something to kind of monitor for August and September. Frequently in September, there are kind of strange things that happen with the priority dates as they're getting to the end of the year, trying to use the numbers exactly as allocated by law. So again, based on the guidance that we have received for July, I would expect retrogression, and then would expect that can change as we reach the end of the year. And then the next question is, do we know how many more green cards remain for the fiscal year? Off the top of my head, I do not. That is not something I've really researched on any given date, so I would imagine that some of that information is available with a little search, but that's not something that I've done. So I'm not sure how many green cards remain available. So so that is kind of the updates for the month of May into the first week of June. Um, as I said, our next First Fridays will be on the first Friday in August. And in the interim, on June 26th, we will do a webinar on employment options for DACA recipients. In the interim, if you have any immigration questions, please reach out to us. We're happy to help with any concerns that you may have. If we can, please follow us on our social medias. They're listed at the top there with Instagram, X, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So um, thank you for joining us for this first Friday. We will speak to you hopefully soon.